Yes, this is now tarot lesson number 140, and we're going to look at a Celtic cross. And I begin with this. This is the zodiac sign Scorpio that you may recognize. And Scorpio represents death and regeneration. Not so much death, but yes, there are endings when a Scorpio is involved. But it's more regeneration, beginning again, making a fresh start, doing something new. So most signs have got a good strengths and weaknesses, whereas Scorpio is different because it's like there's three levels, because Scorpio is the snake. And if you think about snakes, they slither along the ground and you see things close up. It's also the scorpion, which is the dangerous part, where they want revenge, or they want to be cruel, or they want to be harsh. But it's also the eagle. And the eagle flies high from a distance, sees what's going on, what's possible, and understands how the road is going to go. So at this point, and I'm thinking about readings here, forget about the scorpion part for the moment. We've got the snake and the eagle. We've got the snake point of view and the eagle point of view. And if you think about questions that people ask, sometimes you need to give them information from the point of view of the snake, because somebody might want to know, okay, I've got this interview for a promotion on Monday. How do I handle it? And so what they want to know is specific details, detailed instructions about what to say, what to wear, how to present themselves, what to ask, how to answer questions, and so on. They want a lot of detail in a small kind of a way about bits and pieces of the interview process. Whereas somebody else might say, I'm thinking of going for a promotion, is it a good idea? Then you're looking at the eagle, because then you're looking at the idea of a promotion from the point of view of the whole life, or the bigger picture of the person's life. So when you're doing a reading for somebody or for yourself, maybe wonder, are you looking at the answer from the point of view of the snake or from the point of view of the eagle? And that will give you an idea or a way of understanding the kind of information you want to give them. Are you giving them general ideas about how to live and how to find their purpose and how to fit a particular project in their overall purpose? Or are you looking to give them specific, concrete, small, detailed instructions about what to do in a particular circumstance that maybe they can only use it once? Is that, I'm remembering that thing about give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. It's kind of cliched and corny. Teach a man to fish and he can feed himself forever. And in a way, that's a bit like the snake. If you're giving somebody specific information about how to deal with a particular meeting or a particular circumstance, that's like the snake. Whereas if you're giving them general good information about what they can do and what they can incorporate into their philosophy of life, that's more like the eagle. With that in mind, Dementia looked at the Celtic cross we're going to look at, and she gave me an interpretation, but she didn't know what the question was. And in a way, all she could do, somehow she gave me the eagle view, where even though it was kind of specific in some way. So I wrote down, I typed out, or I copied all that she said, and I highlighted basic points for each of the cards that came up. So I'll sort of see if we can work through this a bit at a time. And the first card was the Eight of Cups upright. So she said, Dementia, I'm assuming is a woman, an idea you would like to introduce to the community. And you can see why she might say that. She didn't know what the question was. So maybe she has to be like the eagle and give me an overview. David Allen wrote Getting Things Done, and he talked about the value of seeing or having a 30,000 foot view If you're up in an airplane at 30,000 feet, you can see the landscape below you, and you've got a general idea of the overall picture. And that's maybe what you can do if you don't know the question. So the statement was an idea that I would like to introduce to the community. And so you can see why she would say that. We've got a certain situation here with the cups in the foreground, and somebody's walking off and walking into the distance. It's something new, and maybe it's about what has been discovered here with the 3 and the 5 of cups. And I have to mention somebody else, whose name I can't remember, talked about how the 3 of the triangle is nice. The 5 looks as if it's incomplete. And maybe that's why the person is walking away, because yes, this works, but this isn't quite complete. And that's why they have to move on to something new. I thought it was an interesting point. And also, I realized I first started looking at the tarot in 1975, I think. That's like almost 50 years ago. I'd never thought of that idea. I'd never noticed or made any sense of the 5 cups being kind of missing the top, the one at the top. So I'm telling you that so that you know that if you've been doing this for a couple of years, there's always going to be more. Even no matter how much you know, you're always going to notice more, or somebody can point out something that you hadn't seen before. So Dementia is saying, I'm looking for something I'd like to introduce to the community, which, as it happens, is true. I mean, I've been trying to get organized recently, and I've got various projects that I'm trying to make better. I'm trying to deal with comments on YouTube videos, and I keep not responding to people. And I've got other things that I do like that. So I am, yes, trying to. The message maybe isn't to the community, but it's more like for me to make a fresh start and to move on to be more organized, or to be better organized, and that could be the message about how to do things properly. And then Dementia mentioned that except to the idea is to a certain extent unfinished and potentially destructive, because the opposing force was the Tower, and the Tower you can see is things falling apart. So that can be why what I want to introduce can be potentially destructive. So even though I wasn't asking about me, and I was asking about Susan and her heart attack, nevertheless, Dementia was right in what she talked about here. The other thing is, I will mention here, this particular card, the 8 of Cups, because you can relate minor trumps to decanates in the horoscope, the key word that goes with this particular card is self-sacrifice. So the question is about, because I asked the question, it's about me sacrificing myself going into the future. And I spent a lot of time in hospitals and waiting and the whole bit. So I had my own plans that I was trying to put into practice, but I've had to put everything on a hold for a while. Even I was making YouTube videos every 5 days. Now it's a week, maybe a bit longer. So self-sacrifice with the 8 of Cups. But whatever it was, a certain amount of destruction to be dealt with. And also, let me just show you this in a bigger version of the Tower card. Look at that lightning flash, up, down, and a point. And it's a bit like Scorpio. So with the Tower, there's a certain amount of death and regeneration, endings, and the potential, or ideally a new beginning, because of the destruction of something that had been in existence before. Okay, so that was that. So the third card down below was the World reversed, and Dementia said, it was not quite time yet. So that's the foundation. And so this is me walking away with an idea or something I want to present to the world, but the time wasn't quite right yet, because it's a World, which shows it's the last card in the cycle, and it's upside down, so it's delayed, or it's not time yet, or it's not quite ready. And this can be me as well, not quite ready. I've been trying to do things, but usually procrastinating about doing things. But so the time wasn't right. The fourth card, the influence was passing away, was this Five of Swords. So, interestingly, Dementia said, what you want to talk about and expand on will be better received than you anticipated. So, the Five of Swords, she came up with the idea that the point to be made is it would be better appreciated than I might think, because I can look at this card, or I can look at the situation and see, okay, some success, but quite a lot of defeat as well, an equal amount of defeat as success, and the need to go and comfort the defeated one. So, but this is the influence that's passing away. So there may have been doubt in my mind that people would like the new version of events, but it's passing away. If this had been up here, then there's going to be a difficulty. But here, the fact that a card of difficulty is passing away means it's going to be easier. What may come was the Six of Coins. And so Dementia related this to, people might understand the idea to a certain extent. So, and I don't dive deep enough into the subject, because here you've got somebody with information or with value, and the people down below receiving it, but they're only getting a bit of it. And maybe the two people down here represent the people on the receiving end of the information. And because, yes, they're getting something, but maybe because they're only getting one coin and this person doesn't seem to be getting anything, maybe that's why Dementia said, I can underestimate how well it's going to be received. And then the sixth card, the Ace of Swords reversed, kind of reinforces this idea of lack of acceptance or inability to imagine, or whatever it happens to be. Dementia said, too difficult, it'd be difficult for some to conceive of. So the idea that there's something on offer here, not quite right, maybe it's destructive, but it's going to be better received, even though it's maybe if you've got a message, 80% or 70% of it will be understood, but there's still 20 or 30% that isn't going to be understood. And this can be what's shown by these two cards here. Even though this is generally a good card, and this is, I don't want to say a bad card, but it's a card that's awkward. So then this represents me, the Nine of Pentacles, right? So Dementia said that I want to provide insight and knowledge to the people, but remain grounded. And I was thinking, she's looking at this card and relating it to earth signs, even though I do follow CC saying that pentacles represent air, not earth. But anyway, that's maybe come back to that. But she says that about how I want to provide insight and knowledge, which is fair enough because it is pentacles, it's values. And what's more valuable than insight? What's more valuable than knowledge? We're better with, it goes back to learn how to fish, and you can feed yourself every day. And that's what's valuable, the skill and the knowledge that you get, rather than giving people money that they'll then spend. And when it's used up, it's used up. Then they're stuck with the problem of how do we get more? So Dementia has the idea that because I don't talk much about spirituality in this channel, even though I tend to think it's all about spirituality, but I don't like to use the word because it means so much to all sorts of different people. With that in mind, I would like to point out here, okay, in any sign of the zodiac, there are 30 degrees, and I must have mentioned this before. First decanate from up to 10 degrees, 10 to 20 and 20 to 30. The first decanate is physical. So if you've got many planets in the first 10 degrees of a sign or any sign, you're sort of hands-on and you want to get your hands dirty. It's physical. The second 10 degrees from 10 to 20 is mental. And so here in the middle part of the sign, it's more about the idea or thinking or creating mentally. It's not so much about getting your hands dirty. It's more about thinking about it and coming up with a plan and a good idea. But the reason I'm talking about this is because the third decanate is spiritual. So with the third decanate or third decanate planets, you need more. You need an idea of a purpose or a reason or why you're doing something and what it's good for and why it's morally correct and why it's spiritually valuable and all that. This doesn't concern first decanate. They just want to get things done. But the third decanate is spiritual, and that can be why I don't talk about spiritual, don't talk specifically about spiritual matters or present this channel as a spiritually oriented channel. And it can be because third decanate is spiritual, but not everybody has third decanate planets or cusps. And so I think spirituality belongs with a certain part of the zodiac, not the whole zodiac. And so dementia, that's why I tend to steer to not present the channel as for spiritual understanding, even though ultimately it's all about spiritual understanding and making sense of big things and small things so we can have a better philosophy of life. I think the channel is about philosophy more so than about spirituality, partly because what does spirituality mean? People have got their own special interpretations or special definitions of spiritual. And what spiritual to one person might be the opposite to somebody else. So when I think of spiritual, I can't help but think of third decanate of any particular sign. Then we've got the influence of other people, the positivity that I receive from the community because it's the Queen of Pentacles and it's upright. And so remembering the eagle, right? We've got this. This is the interpretation from the point of view of the eagle, not the snake. And so here, so if I were worried about things or wanting to know, am I going to get support? Am I going to do well? Or whatever the question happens to be, with the Queen of Pentacles here, you get support from the people or you get support from the community. Partly because they're queen and queens like to make things happen. And it's Pentacles, so it's values and it's something of value. And that's what you get from other people. Because this card here in the hopes and fears is swords, Dementia took the point of view that this is a fear. So hopes or fears, and she's saying fears as signified by the card, reinforces her interpretation as this being a precarious idea. This goes back to the Tower. The urge to express something different or maybe something new, but it's kind of tricky because the Tower's in the way. And maybe I'm aware of potential difficulty in or it's precarious, it's tricky, it might work, but it might not. So Dementia's looking at this card because it's a sword, and swords can be dangerous. That's why it's a fear. But I did mention, I think hopes and fears both relate to the future. And so what do? Fear is F-E-A-R, future experiences appearing real. F-E-A-R. They appear to be real, but it's future experiences. We haven't had them yet. So a lot of the fears that we've got are from our creative imagination in the moment, in the present, imagining the worst in the future. And that's what we create fear for ourselves. So I think I've got a different opinion about this card from Dementia. And the final outcome was the hanged man reversed. And she said, am I still undecided about something? And this is why I engaged in the exercise first. Was I undecided? I don't know if I was. I was curious to know what cards would come up for Susan's recovery from the heart attack. But I can understand why Dementia would say that with the hangman reverse. Was there uncertainty about something? And that's why I wanted to ask in the first place. So you can see how what Dementia made of the spread was good and made sense, and there's a consistency, how she put different bits and pieces together and told a more complete story. The thing is, she didn't know the question. She did a good job, I think, of the eagle idea. If you've got an overview of the situation, you talk about what's going to happen, what's going to come about, and then it's up to the questioner to make snake-like sense of the general idea that they've been given, right? So if Dementia gives me an overview, a 30,000 feet view, then it's up to me, who I'm actually there living it, and I can put together the general direction that she gives me with the specific circumstances that I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So you can get the best of both worlds. So even if you give an eagle point of view, an eagle angle on the situation, and it's an overview, it's still valuable to the questioner because they can take the general idea or the atmosphere that you talk about from the cards that come up, and they can then apply it to their own particular situation because they know the names and the dates and the places and the people. Okay, so that was that for the moment, and so I'll be back in a few days. Just stalling for time here while I put these cards away, and then I must try to remember that the camera's up here, and so I always shuffle over here and you never see it. So one last little shuffle to mix cards so that they're ready for the next time I use them, and then I put them away, and not very neatly, but what can you do? I'll just do it like that, and that's it done. Who can be bothered with neatness? Okay, thank you for watching. If you have comments or questions, leave them down below, and I'll see you in a few days. Okay, bye-bye, thanks.